In a world where celebrity relationships often unfold like gripping soap operas, few stories have captured the public's attention quite like the shocking divorce of Jackie and Doug. This wasn't just another high-profile split. It was a full-blown media spectacle, a roller coaster ride of allegations, counterclaims, and a jaw-dropping $300 million settlement demand. From the moment Jackie filed for divorce, she portrayed herself as the victim of a cruel betrayal, painting a picture of emotional distress and heartbreak. But on the other side of the courtroom, Doug wasn't just fighting for his fortune, he was fighting to protect his reputation and his future. As the legal battle escalated, what followed wasn't just a courtroom drama, it was a war of words, with bombshell revelations that turned the narrative upside down. Secrets were exposed, shocking truths were unveiled, and every new development left the public stunned and questioning what had really happened behind closed doors. The once clear lines between good and bad, victim and villain, began to blur, and the media frenzy only fueled the fire. What started as a simple divorce proceeding soon spiraled into something much larger, a battle for control, for power, and for truth. With every twist and turn, new details emerged that revealed just how much was at stake for both parties. Jackie's accusations painted her as the wronged party, but Doug's lawyer had other plans that would soon shatter everything Jackie had hoped to achieve. In this video, we'll break down the shocking revelations, the key moments that changed everything, and how Doug's lawyer delivered the bombshell that crushed Jackie's $300 million claim. We'll explore the intricate layers of deception, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of truth that dominated this high-stakes divorce battle. Stay tuned as we delve deep into this real-life drama and unravel the truth behind one of the most shocking celebrity divorce cases to date. The moment Jackie filed for divorce, it sent shockwaves throughout the entertainment world, shaking fans, media outlets, and industry insiders alike. For years, Jackie and Doug had been portrayed as the quintessential power couple. Their flawless red carpet appearances, luxurious vacations, and seemingly perfect life made them the envy of many. But beneath the surface of this glamorous facade, the relationship had begun to deteriorate, and Jackie's decision to file was the first public acknowledgement of the cracks that had formed over time. Rumors about trouble in paradise had been circulating for months before Jackie made her move. Whispered conversations among friends, conflicting social media posts, and subtle signs in public appearances all hinted at a deeper issue. But no one expected the sudden divorce filing that would turn their world upside down. The media quickly descended upon the couple's tumultuous relationship, eager to find a scandal to feed the public's insatiable appetite for drama. Jackie wasted no time in taking control of the narrative. She painted herself as the victim, accusing Doug of unfaithfulness and emotional abuse. The allegations were explosive, especially coming from a woman who had once been regarded as the embodiment of the perfect wife. The media, hungry for a story, quickly picked up on Jackie's portrayal of her husband, with outlets across the globe siding with her. Social media erupted in support, with hashtags like #TeamJackie trending worldwide as fans and onlookers expressed their sympathy and outrage over Doug's alleged behavior. However, as the public rallied behind Jackie, the reality of the situation began to emerge. Was her portrayal of Doug as the villain the complete truth, or was there more to the story? Despite Jackie's public claims, Doug remained largely silent, offering little in terms of defense or rebuttal. But behind closed doors, he was not idle. Instead of engaging in the media frenzy, Doug took a strategic approach, quietly gathering evidence that would later become crucial in the unfolding legal battle. As Jackie demanded an unprecedented $300 million in the divorce settlement, questions began to surface. Was this truly about justice, or was it a calculated move to secure her future in the wake of a marriage that had clearly soured? The amount was staggering, and many were left wondering whether Jackie was seeking financial compensation for her emotional distress, or if this was a play to leverage her position as the estranged wife of a wealthy and influential man. The media frenzy surrounding the divorce only grew as more details emerged. Friends, family, and even former associates were interviewed, each offering their own perspectives on the relationship. The public was fed a constant stream of information, and it became clear that Jackie's version of events was not as clear-cut as it appeared. Yet, the wave of support continued to swell for her, with many continuing to believe that Doug was indeed the villain in this story. But even as the public narrative continued to unfold, one question lingered: what was Doug's next move? While Jackie's team had already made their public statements and filed their claims, Doug remained in the background, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal what he had been quietly compiling, a trove of evidence that would challenge everything Jackie had said. This would be the turning point in a battle that, until now, had seemed to be heavily in her favor. When Jackie's divorce filing sent shockwaves through the media, Doug wasted no time in responding. But his response was far from impulsive. It was calculated, strategic, and designed to protect not only his wealth, but his entire reputation. Knowing the gravity of the accusations being leveled against him, Doug immediately assembled a team of top-tier divorce attorneys and hired private investigators. He understood that his public image was on the line, and he wasn't about to let Jackie's narrative dominate the court of public opinion without a fight. Doug's first move was to go on the offensive. He wasn't going to let Jackie's portrayal of him as an unfaithful, emotionally abusive husband go uncontested. His legal team began to investigate every aspect of Jackie's claims, carefully analyzing her financial history, spending habits, and lifestyle choices. What they uncovered was staggering. Contrary to Jackie's claims of financial struggle, Doug's investigators found evidence that painted a much different picture. While Jackie had publicly stated that she was suffering financially due to the breakdown of their marriage, Doug's team discovered signs of extravagant spending. Jackie had been indulging in luxury vacations, designer shopping sprees, and expensive social events, all while portraying herself as a victim in desperate need of financial support. This discrepancy was just the beginning of a series of revelations that would soon unravel Jackie's narrative. But the financial inconsistencies weren't the only bombshell. Doug's team also found evidence suggesting that Jackie had hidden assets, properties, investments, and even luxury items that she had kept concealed from both him and the public eye. As they combed through her financial records, Doug's attorneys found instances of questionable transactions and attempts to hide the true extent of her wealth. The more they dug, the clearer it became. Jackie's portrayal of financial ruin was far from the truth. Doug knew that if he was going to successfully counter Jackie's claims, he had to strike a balance between defending his financial interests and protecting his character. This wasn't just about money, it was about his name and his future. The stakes were incredibly high, and Doug wasn't prepared to let his reputation be tarnished by what he believed were false accusations. As the court date approached, Doug's legal team worked around the clock to prepare their case. They meticulously gathered evidence, including bank statements, tax returns, and business records that would expose Jackie's financial activities. Every document was carefully scrutinized, each piece adding weight to Doug's defense. His legal team also made sure to gather testimonies from key individuals who could attest to Jackie's lavish lifestyle and questionable financial practices. Doug's resolve was unwavering. He wasn't just fighting for his wealth, he was fighting for his name, for his legacy, and for the truth. The courtroom drama was about to intensify, and Doug was ready to take on the challenge headfirst. With every new revelation, the narrative began to shift. The public's perception of the divorce, which had once been entirely in Jackie's favor, was starting to change. Doug's strategic approach, combined with the mounting evidence, was slowly but surely turning the tide in his favor. The battle for control of the narrative had begun, and Doug was determined to come out on top. Jackie wasn't just a wife seeking a divorce. She was a woman who had been meticulously crafting a story to secure her future, and in the process, she had been playing a dangerous game of deceit. The courtroom went silent as Doug's attorney presented the details of these revelations. The audience was taken aback, unable to fully comprehend the scope of Jackie's manipulation. Jackie's efforts to publicly paint Doug as the villain were not just attempts to gain sympathy, they were part of a larger, more sinister strategy to gain control over her financial future. The emails and phone records revealed a careful orchestration of her every move, proving that she had been planning the divorce with calculated precision, preparing for every possible outcome. As the weight of the revelation hit, Jackie's previously unshakable confidence began to evaporate. Her demeanor shifted dramatically, from defensive and combative to visibly shaken and desperate. She had expected the courtroom to rally behind her, but now, with the new evidence in play, her story was crumbling under the harsh light of truth. Her carefully constructed image of a betrayed wife was being dismantled piece by piece, replaced by a picture of a woman who had been plotting her financial future long before her marriage ended. The judge, who had been listening intently to the proceedings, could no longer hide his concern. His expression shifted from one of mild interest to one of serious contemplation as the implications of Jackie's actions began to settle in. What had started as a high-profile divorce with allegations of mistreatment was now being redefined as a case of fraud and deception. The seriousness of Jackie's manipulation became impossible to ignore, and the courtroom buzzed with whispers and speculation. The audience, once sympathetic to Jackie's plight, now began to question everything they had heard. The narrative that had been so carefully constructed was unraveling in real time, leaving behind a trail of lies and deceit. Doug, who had initially been painted as the villain in this divorce drama, was now being seen as a man caught in the middle of a larger web of manipulation. As Doug's legal team continued to lay out the evidence, it became increasingly clear that Jackie's actions were not just those of a wronged spouse, but of someone actively orchestrating a financial and emotional coup. The courtroom, once filled with the drama of a celebrity divorce, was now filled with a sense of shock and disbelief as the true nature of Jackie's motives began to emerge. The implications of this revelation were far-reaching, not just for the divorce proceedings, but for the public perception of Jackie. What had once been a tale of heartbreak and betrayal was now evolving into a high-stakes case of financial manipulation, with the potential for lasting consequences for Jackie's reputation. As the judge took a moment to process the new evidence, it was clear that this divorce was no longer just a bitter split. It was a battle over trust, integrity, and truth. The stakes had never been higher, and the shocking revelations had just turned the case on its head. The courtroom drama reached its peak when Melissa, Jackie's former employee, took the stand. Melissa had once been fiercely loyal to Jackie, but as the events surrounding the divorce unfolded, her perspective began to shift. With the truth weighing heavily on her conscience, Melissa made the bold decision to come forward with her testimony, and it quickly became a game-changer in the courtroom. As Melissa spoke, the gravity of her words hit the room like a thunderclap. She revealed shocking details about Jackie's plans long before the divorce was filed. According to Melissa, Jackie had instructed her to gather damaging information on Doug, starting well before any official divorce proceedings began. Jackie had tasked Melissa with combing through Doug's emails, text messages, and business records, anything that could be used to tarnish his reputation. This revelation shattered the image of Jackie as the innocent victim and instead painted her as a calculating manipulator, a woman who had been planning her escape and financial security while publicly portraying herself as the wronged spouse. Melissa's testimony painted a damning picture of Jackie's behind-the-scenes behavior. The courtroom, which had been filled with whispers and murmurs throughout the trial, fell completely silent as Melissa detailed the extent of Jackie's deceit. Jackie had been fabricating stories about Doug's infidelity and mistreatment, planting rumors to tarnish his character and gain sympathy from the public and the courts. But it wasn't just about the divorce. It was about manipulating the narrative to ensure Jackie would come out on top, regardless of the truth. Melissa's words were powerful, each one a hammer striking the carefully constructed facade that Jackie had built around herself. She described how Jackie had been meticulously crafting a story for months, one in which Doug was painted as the villain and she, the victim. As the details of Jackie's actions unfolded, the truth began to sink in for everyone present. Jackie's divorce was no longer just a personal matter. It was part of a larger, more calculated plan to destroy Doug's reputation while securing her own financial future. The judge, who had remained composed throughout the trial, could not hide his shock as he listened to Melissa's testimony. His pen moved rapidly across his notepad, capturing every detail as it became clear that Jackie's actions had extended far beyond the typical animosity of a divorce. This was about reputations being ruined, false narratives being created, and a carefully orchestrated attempt to deceive not only Doug, but the entire public. The implications of Melissa's testimony were profound. It was one thing for Jackie to fabricate stories about Doug's behavior, but it was another for her to have actively sought out evidence to back up those lies. Melissa's first-hand account revealed just how far Jackie was willing to go to destroy Doug's life. The audience, once sympathetic to Jackie, was now left in stunned silence, grappling with the true extent of her manipulations. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, and the tension was palpable. Doug's legal team looked vindicated, having successfully exposed the web of lies Jackie had spun over the past year. The tables had turned, and it was now clear that Jackie's narrative was built on deceit from the very beginning. As Melissa finished her testimony and stepped down from the stand, the judge looked up with a stern expression. This revelation had changed the course of the trial. The case, once a bitter divorce with emotional claims on both sides, had now become a high-stakes battle for truth, integrity, and justice. Jackie's carefully crafted image of herself as the victim was crumbling before everyone's eyes, and the courtroom understood that this trial was about far more than just a divorce settlement. It was a fight for the truth. As the trial entered its final stages, the fallout from the courtroom revelations was swift, dramatic, and far-reaching. The truth had emerged, and it had a seismic effect on the lives of both Jackie and Doug. While Doug's reputation began to recover, bolstered by the irrefutable evidence that had been presented, Jackie's public image, once pristine, began to crumble in real time. The media, which had previously rallied behind Jackie, painting her as the innocent victim in the story, quickly pivoted. The headlines flooded social media and news outlets, no longer sympathizing with Jackie but instead highlighting her alleged financial fraud and manipulative tactics. Her carefully curated image as the wronged wife, betrayed by her husband, was now exposed as a carefully orchestrated lie. The public was quick to turn on her, with many accusing her of dishonesty, greed, and financial manipulation. What followed was a rapid shift in the court of public opinion. Jackie's supporters, who had once been vocal in their defense, began to distance themselves from her. The backlash was not just about the trial, it was about trust. Fans who had admired Jackie for years began to express their disillusionment, calling her out for being a gold digger and a liar. On top of that, companies and brands that had once partnered with Jackie quickly severed ties. Her carefully constructed brand began to disintegrate as quickly as the media storm surrounding her. In Hollywood, a town where public perception is everything, Jackie found herself on the outside, with her future prospects looking increasingly uncertain. Her PR team, once adept at managing her image, scrambled to salvage whatever was left of her reputation. They released statements and attempted to downplay the damage, but the evidence against Jackie was so overwhelming that their efforts were in vain. The day of the court hearing arrived, and the tension in the air was palpable. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with the expectations of both the public and the media. Jackie entered with an air of unshakable confidence, knowing she had the full support of the media, as well as her loyal supporters who filled the gallery, eager to hear her side of the story. With the spotlight firmly on her, Jackie seemed certain that her portrayal as the victim would resonate with the judge and jury. But little did she know, Doug's legal team had been preparing for this moment for weeks, and they were ready to dismantle her narrative piece by piece. As the proceedings began, Doug's attorney wasted no time in presenting the evidence they had meticulously gathered over the past several months. The first set of documents sent shockwaves through the courtroom. These were not just standard financial records, they were detailed and telling. Doug's legal team had uncovered a pattern of financial behavior that directly contradicted Jackie's claims. While Jackie had positioned herself as a victim of Doug's alleged mistreatment, the evidence painted a very different picture. The first revelation was stunning. Jackie had made unexplained withdrawals and transfers to offshore accounts, transactions that seemed deliberately hidden from both Doug and the public eye. This raised serious questions about her honesty and integrity. How could someone claiming financial distress have access to such hidden resources? The silence in the courtroom was deafening as the weight of these documents sunk in. Jackie's portrayal of herself as a helpless victim was starting to crumble under the weight of hard evidence. But it didn't stop there. Doug's attorney proceeded to detail Jackie's lavish lifestyle, which stood in stark contrast to her earlier claims of financial struggle. Documents showed that Jackie had been living far beyond her means, spending large sums of money on luxury vacations, designer clothing, and high-end social events, all while publicly claiming that she was financially burdened by the divorce. The evidence suggested that Jackie's extravagant expenditures were not only inconsistent with her public narrative, but they also painted a picture of a woman who had been funneling money into secret accounts while simultaneously portraying herself as the wronged party in desperate need of financial support. As the mounting evidence was laid bare before the court, Jackie's confidence began to falter. Her previously unwavering stance started to show cracks as she watched her narrative unravel in real time. The accusations she had leveled against Doug, the emotional abuse, and the financial hardship all seemed less credible as the truth came to light. What had started as a carefully constructed story of betrayal and victimhood was now looking more and more like a well-crafted facade. The room was thick with tension as Jackie's supporters began to look uncomfortable. The once unwavering certainty that she was the victim was slowly being replaced with doubt. Her carefully crafted image was beginning to disintegrate under the weight of Doug's team's meticulous strategy. The courtroom, once full of sympathy for Jackie, now felt like a place of reckoning, where the truth was beginning to prevail. Doug's attorney, sensing the shift, pressed on. Each new piece of evidence chipped away at Jackie's claims, and with every revelation, the public's perception of her role in the divorce was starting to shift. The narrative that had once been dominated by her version of events was now open to question, and Doug, through his legal team, was seizing control of the story. As the day drew to a close, it was clear that the once solid foundation of Jackie's allegations had begun to crack. Doug's response had been swift, calculated, and above all, effective. The tide had begun to turn, and the public was now left wondering whether they had been misled from the very beginning. As the trial continued, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew increasingly intense. The tension was palpable, with every word spoken by Doug's legal team carrying the weight of the unfolding drama. With precision and determination, Doug's attorneys pressed forward, relentlessly presenting piece after piece of evidence that slowly but surely unraveled Jackie's carefully crafted story. They revealed a disturbing pattern of questionable financial practices that Jackie had tried to keep hidden from the public eye. Doug's legal team laid out evidence showing that Jackie had been making large, unexplained wire transfers to offshore banks, transactions that were not only suspicious, but also deeply troubling in their scope. But that was just the beginning. The attorneys went on to reveal that Jackie had been using false company names to make investments, hiding assets behind layers of deceit. To make matters worse, they uncovered real estate purchases that Jackie had been disguising as legitimate business expenses, masking her wealth while claiming to be financially burdened. The courtroom gasped as the full scale of her actions became undeniable. As the evidence continued to unfold, Jackie's demeanor shifted dramatically. The woman who had walked into the courtroom with a confident, almost smug air now appeared visibly shaken. Her facade, carefully constructed to portray her as the victim in this highly publicized divorce, crumbled in front of the judge and the audience. Her once steady composure turned into disbelief and fear as the evidence piled up against her. It was clear that Jackie had underestimated Doug's ability to fight back, and the evidence was beginning to paint a picture that was far darker than she had ever anticipated. Doug's attorney, in a calm but piercing tone, described how Jackie had been claiming financial hardship, all the while secretly managing a substantial portfolio of assets that would make any investor envious. The contrast between Jackie's public image as a struggling wife and her private financial dealings was striking, and it wasn't lost on the judge. His expression grew more serious with every new piece of information revealed, as the implications of Jackie's actions began to settle in. With each new discovery, Doug's case grew stronger, and the weight of the truth became undeniable. The courtroom, once a stage for Jackie's accusations, now seemed to be a place of reckoning for her. What had started as a bitter divorce was now evolving into something much more significant, a potential case of financial fraud. The audience, the media, and the judge were all watching in stunned silence as Doug's legal team effectively turned the tables. Jackie, once the face of the victimized spouse, was now left scrambling to defend herself. She had no answer for the mounting evidence, and with every attempted explanation, her credibility seemed to slip further away. The courtroom drama had reached a turning point, and it was clear that the once strong case Jackie had built was now unraveling before her eyes. Doug's legal team had not only exposed Jackie's financial misdeeds, but had also shifted the narrative entirely. What had once been a story of a wife seeking justice now appeared to be a tale of deception and hidden agendas. As the trial progressed, it became evident that this was no longer just a messy divorce. It was a showdown between truth and manipulation, with Doug's legal team fighting for transparency and justice. The implications of Jackie's actions were becoming more significant with each passing moment, and it seemed that the courtroom was becoming less a place of resolution for their marriage and more a battleground for the future of both parties. The final chapter of their story was far from written, but with each revelation, it became clear that the public's perception of Jackie and Doug was being fundamentally altered. The pressure was mounting, and the stakes had never been higher. Just when it seemed that Jackie's world couldn't crumble any further, a bombshell dropped that left everyone in the courtroom stunned. Doug's investigators had been working tirelessly, and their efforts bore fruit in the form of a series of covert emails and phone records, documents that painted a disturbing picture of premeditation and manipulation. These communications revealed something startling. Jackie had been planning this divorce for over a year. What had initially appeared to be a sudden, emotionally driven decision was, in fact, a calculated strategy. The evidence began to tell a chilling story. Jackie had been laying the groundwork for this moment long before she ever filed for divorce. She had been spreading rumors about Doug's alleged infidelity and emotional abuse to build the foundation for her narrative as the innocent victim. But while she was portraying herself as a wronged wife, she was simultaneously preparing her financial escape plan. Social media exploded, with users dissecting every revelation from the trial, and previously loyal fans now turned vocal in their disappointment. The public had seen the true face of Jackie, and there was no turning back. Meanwhile, Doug, despite the emotional toll of the ordeal, remained composed and resolute. He chose not to engage in the media frenzy, recognizing that the facts were on his side. Rather than retaliating, Doug allowed the evidence to speak for itself. He took the high road, focusing on rebuilding his life and moving forward. As the media circus surrounding Jackie continued to escalate, Doug quietly and methodically worked on regaining control of his public image, all while remaining above the fray. As the final gavel fell and the trial concluded, the consequences of the scandal were felt by both parties, but in vastly different ways. For Jackie, the collapse of her public image was only the beginning of her troubles. The revelations of financial fraud, manipulation, and deceit had far-reaching consequences, both in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion. The possibility of criminal charges loomed large, as prosecutors reviewed the evidence of financial wrongdoing. Jackie's world, once filled with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, had turned into a minefield of legal threats and social isolation. Doug, on the other hand, emerged from the trial victorious, having successfully defended both his wealth and his reputation. While the process had been painful, Doug had remained steadfast and focused on the truth, allowing it to guide him through the storm. The case was a testament to the power of patience, strategy, and the importance of never allowing a narrative to overpower reality. The courtroom drama served as a powerful reminder of how easily public perception can be shaped and how quickly it can be shattered. Jackie believed she had Doug cornered, believing that her manufactured story would be enough to secure her financial future. But in the end, Doug had been playing the long game all along. The public now knew the truth, and the consequences for Jackie were far greater than she could have ever anticipated. As we reflect on this saga of ambition, betrayal, and manipulation, it raises a larger question. How often do we allow ourselves to take narratives at face value without considering the complexities and hidden truths that lie beneath the surface? In the end, Jackie's story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us all of the importance of questioning what we hear and what we believe. What do you think of this entire ordeal? How do you see the way public perception can change so rapidly? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to stay tuned for more captivating stories from the world of celebrity drama.